Picture this. You pull up to a fuel station in Delhi, and you spot a brand new pump. The fuel is a massive 20 rupees cheaper per liter than standard petrol. I mean, in India, where fuel prices are literally a daily conversation, a discount like that, it's impossible to ignore. But hold on, before you reach for that nozzle and start filling up your tank, we really need to ask a critical question. Is this new, cheap fuel actually safe for your vehicle, or are you just setting yourself up for a catastrophic and seriously expensive engine failure down the road?
Welcome to this explainer. I'm genuinely excited to jump into this today because, honestly, this affects pretty much everyone who drives or rides in India right now. Today, we're investigating the E85 dilemma. We're going to look past that tempting price tag at the pump to figure out, is this new fuel a miracle for our wallets and the agricultural sector, or a hidden nightmare for everyday vehicles that just aren't built for it? Here's our roadmap for today. First, what exactly is E85 fuel? Then we'll look at the Indian E85 context, the actual risks to regular vehicles, why flex fuel is the safe choice, the real-world math on E85 mileage and costs, and finally, we'll bust some common myths versus facts. Let's dive right in. Section 1. What is E85 fuel? Let's talk about the science of blending. When you put standard petrol and E85 side by side, the chemistry is actually pretty striking. E85 gets its name because it's roughly 85% ethanol blended with just 15% standard petrol. Now, ethanol is a biofuel. It burns way cleaner than pure fossil fuels, and it naturally has a higher octane rating, which is absolutely fantastic for preventing engine knock. But, and this is a big but, it has a major physical limitation compared to petrol. Ethanol has a lower calorific value. In simple terms, it just holds less raw energy per liter than pure petrol does. So where does this stuff actually come from? Well, here in India, ethanol is primarily an agricultural product, which makes the whole production process really fascinating. It all starts right at the farm, collecting sugarcane, molasses, or even surplus grains like maize. Once they've got all that, yeast is added to ferment those sugars, chemically turning them into alcohol. From there, the mix goes through this intense, high-heat distillation process, and finally, a dehydration phase just to strip out any remaining moisture. The end result is fuel-grade ethanol sitting at an incredibly pure 99.9%, totally ready to be blended into our national fuel supply. Moving on to Section 2, the Indian E85 context. Why the shift? 22 trillion rupees. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. That staggering number tells the whole macroeconomic story right there. It's the massive amount India currently spends importing crude oil from overseas every single year. It's a huge burden on the national economy. So by aggressively producing ethanol right here at home from local crops, the government is trying to drastically slash that import bill, boost our energy security, and, at the same time, create vital new income streams for the agricultural sector and local farmers. Because those financial and strategic incentives are just so strong, this national rollout of blended fuels, it's happening incredibly fast. We saw E10, that's 10% ethanol, become widely available around 2021, and the target for widespread E20 adoption is set for 2025. But look at what's literally right around the corner. The government is officially targeting 500 E85 dispensing stations by the end of 2026 and aiming for a massive 5,000 dedicated stations by 2027. Make no mistake, E85 is coming to a fuel pump near you very, very soon. Which brings us to Section 3, Risks to Regular Vehicles, the Compatibility Catch. Now for the really crucial part. To understand the mechanical risks to your standard older vehicles, we have to talk about a chemical phenomenon called phase separation. You see, unlike traditional petrol, ethanol is highly hygroscopic. That's just a fancy way of saying it absolutely loves water. It'll actively pull moisture right out of the air. If the ethanol in your fuel absorbs too much water, like, say, during our heavy monsoon seasons, or if your bike just sits unused for a few weeks, it gets heavy. It completely separates from the petrol and sinks straight to the very bottom of your fuel tank, forming this highly corrosive water ethanol sludge.
And this technical bulletin straight from BP brilliantly illustrates exactly why this is so dangerous. When that phase separation happens, that heavy, watery sludge sits exactly where your vehicle's fuel pump draws its supply. So, if your fuel pump sucks up that separated water-ethanol mix from the bottom of the tank and shoots it into your engine's combustion chamber, the whole combustion process just fails. Your vehicle is going to experience severe drivability issues, rough idling, hard starting, and honestly, it can completely stall out and leave you stranded on the side of the road. But water isn't even the only issue here.
The ethanol itself acts as a really harsh solvent. Check out this hard testing data from the Automotive Research Association of India, or ARA. When they exposed the materials inside standard older fuel systems to higher ethanol blends, the results were pretty eye-opening. The solvent properties caused severe deterioration and swelling in standard rubber seals. It actually decreased the tensile strength of the everyday plastics used in your fuel lines and even triggered minor galvanic corrosion in certain metals. So in the real world, pouring high ethanol E85 into a standard incompatible engine leads to a rapid, nasty chain reaction of mechanical failures. That solvent effect literally eats away at your rubber hoses, creating dangerous fuel leaks. The resulting internal corrosion clogs up your precise, expensive fuel injectors. And remember how we said ethanol has lower overall energy? Well, your engine's computer gets totally confused by that, causing what's called lean combustion, basically too much air and not enough fuel. That immediately triggers check engine lights, causes extreme engine heat, and eventually it's going to result in thousands of rupees in maintenance costs. Any money you saved at the pump, completely wiped out. Let's look at Section 4, Flex Fuel, the safe choice, the engineering solution. So is E85 inherently a bad fuel? No, absolutely not. The fuel itself is fantastic for the economy and for emissions. It's simply the vehicle hardware that needs an upgrade. And automotive engineers have solved this exact puzzle by creating flex fuel vehicles, or FFVs. These cars and bikes are built totally differently right from the factory. They use upgraded ethanol-compatible plastics and rubber that won't degrade over time. They have specialized corrosion-resistant fuel pumps. And most importantly, the engine control unit, the ECU, is specifically programmed with dynamic sensors to recognize ethanol. It automatically adjusts the fuel mapping on the fly to perfectly compensate for ethanol's lower calorific value. This fundamental shift in engineering means that only vehicles explicitly designated as flex fuel by the manufacturer can safely handle that green E85 nozzle. In India, we are just now starting to see these purpose-built machines hit the market. Maruti Suzuki has showcased the WagonR flex fuel prototype, and the leading two-wheeler brands like Hero MotoCorp and Suzuki are actively launching specific bikes engineered just for E85. The takeaway here? Manufacturer approval is absolutely everything. All right, Section 5, E85 mileage and costs, the real-world math. Let's step out from under the hood for a second and actually do the real-world math on that attractive 20 rupees per liter discount we talked about at the very beginning. Remember how we discussed that ethanol has a lower calorific value? Because it literally holds less raw energy, your engine has to burn a larger volume of it just to get you from point A to point B. Globally, the data shows that running a flex fuel vehicle on E85 consistently results in a 20 to 30% drop in fuel efficiency compared to running that exact same vehicle on pure petrol. So if your bike usually gets 50 kilometers per liter on standard petrol, it might immediately drop down to around 35 or 40 on E85. The absolutely crucial point to understand here is that E85 does not automatically equal massive, unconditional savings. You are always making a financial trade-off. Yes, you hand over significantly less money every single time you fill up at the station, but you're absolutely going to find yourself returning to that fuel station much more frequently because your overall mileage has dropped. Depending on the final day-to-day price difference and how many kilometers you drive, you for sure can still save money over the year, but it really requires doing the actual math for your specific daily commute and vehicle. Let's move to our final section, Section 6, Myths versus 85 Facts, Clearing the Confusion. Before we wrap up this explainer, let's do a rapid-fire check to clear the air on some common myths floating around out there. Myth: any petrol car can run on E85. Fact: no way, using it in a standard engine practically guarantees hardware failure. Myth: more ethanol always equals better performance. Fact: while it does have higher octane to stop engine knock, it fundamentally has less energy, so it will noticeably lower your mileage. Myth: E85 automatically reduces all running costs. Fact: like we just saw, that mileage drop offsets a big chunk of the cheaper pump price. And finally, myth: high ethanol means zero maintenance. Fact: because of severe water absorption, you actually have to be highly vigilant, especially during monsoon season or if your vehicle sits parked for a long time. Ultimately, I want you to walk away with this golden rule, which is echoed by automotive engineers and testing agencies worldwide. Fuel compatibility depends entirely on vehicle design, period. E85 is an undeniably amazing tool to reduce India's reliance on imported crude oil, to support our local farmers, and to lower tailpipe emissions. But at the end of the day, it remains a highly specialized fuel, and it requires a highly specialized machine to burn it safely. So the next time you pull into a fuel station and see that tempting, newly installed pump offering deeply discounted E85, pause for just a second. Think about the chemistry we discussed today. Think about the materials used in your specific fuel lines and check exactly what your manufacturer explicitly recommends in your owner's manual. Ask yourself, is my engine truly ready for E85? Make the smart, informed choice for your vehicle, and trust me, your wallet will thank you in the long run. Thanks so much for joining me on this explanation, and keep exploring.